All right, guys, first off, because we're terrible people, we realized that not necessarily everyone from Instagram is going to be following us on YouTube, and we forgot to introduce ourselves. So, this is Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm the founder of The Powerful Rescue, and this is...
My name's Duke.
Duke actually doesn't even know, he actually doesn't know his title, because I just had to revamp the paperwork for the rescue. You are treasurer. So you actually,
That's a really bad idea.
It's a great idea.
But yeah, anyhow, Duke, Steph, we run the Powerful Rescue. Welcome to our page.
Yep.
Today we wanted to go over a few things, some of the most frequently asked questions we get on the rescue page. Number one has got to be, how did we start the rescue? Or how did Steph start the rescue? I jumped in a little later. Question number two, and this one is really a little tricky, so stick with me, is how to go about starting your own rescue. I have 5 key points as far as how to start your own rescue.
Okay.
Steph has a laundry list that she'll go over after, so I'll start with my 5 key points.
Okay.
Steph's ready to hear it.
Let's hear it.
All right. Number 1, do not quit your job. Do not sell your house. Do not expect to make money. We don't make money at all from the rescue. Some rescues do make money, but if you think you're gonna make money and supplement your income off the bat, this is not for you. This is something we do as a passion project.
Yep.
We have our day jobs, but to my first point, find a job that allows you to work remote. There are some rescues that can do it on the weekends and work around their job, but if you want to do rescue full time, you're gonna need to find a job that allows you to work remotely.
And pays well.
And pays well, because you probably will use some of your own money.
Especially when you start off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, trying to get off the ground is not easy. If you don't have a facility, you have to build up a foster base, you have to network, you have to obviously promote your rescue in order to get funds for the dogs in your rescue. Step number 2, do not expect to make money doing rescue. You will not do it off the bat unless you have built up your base.
Yep.
And this is if you want to collect a check from it. Like I said, we don't. But off the bat, you're not going to have 50 to 100 grand rolling in and money left over to give yourself a salary.
Right.
Step number 3, volunteer at your shelter, foster for another rescue. You don't know if you're going to like tripod pitties, if you're going to like big dogs, small dogs, medical cases, puppies.
Yep.
Until you go through everything, you're not going to understand what really drives you. And if you don't have that, your rescue is going to fail. Ensure that you are in the proper home environment where you can take in an extra dog. If you have a resident dog and you're going to start a rescue, understand off the bat you're not going to have a big enough foster base, and you're probably not going to have enough money for a facility to put these dogs somewhere else. If you were going to go pull dogs, the reality is you're going to have to foster. And we have gotten a few people that have asked about that. We foster 2 to 3 dogs at a time, sometimes more, whatever the legal limit is, whatever we're allowed to do. So if you're going to start a rescue, understand you do have to foster. That is part of why we're so big on rotating crates. Step number 5, link up with a CPA to get all your paperwork in order, to file with the state. It's not as easy as you guys think. It's best that you have somebody to take care of this for you, including getting a nonprofit attorney, somebody that can keep your taxes and everything in line. Those are my 5 super easy quick steps.
Super easy.
Super easy, yeah.
You'll have a rescue in no time, friends. So Duke is right. We do get that question asked a lot. How the rescue started was me picking up strays in South LA and fostering them, getting them vetted. I came across this English bulldog named Darla, which we've seen in other videos. She was an extreme medical case. And Darla, at that point, I didn't have my 501c3, so I adopted her out of the shelter and I fostered her. And I did a GoFundMe for her because right off the bat, that one medical case was like $9,000. So I had to do a GoFundMe to raise funds. And then even then, I was only able to raise a portion of it, and the other part came out of my pocket, which happens when you're first starting a rescue, especially if you're taking on medical cases. You can always take on non-medical cases that aren't going to cost you as much, but I will say this, guys, anything can happen to any one of your dogs very easily. I'm talking about your dog deciding to drink some stagnant water outside, and all of a sudden you're a few $1,000s in for a parasite eating a tennis ball, which his personal dog did. If you're going to start a rescue, realize right off the bat you're going to spend some of your own money. It's just part of it. And in order for you to become a reputable rescue, meaning you have, you can back up what you're saying. You can always provide paperwork, invoices from vets. You provide updates for your followers so that they know where their money is being, allocated to, and that the dogs are safe and found forever homes. That they're doing their due diligence.
Following up on that.
Right. They're doing home checks. They are doing trial runs prior to being adopted. They're providing the fosters with all the supplies that they need and tools in order to make that dog adoptable, and setting it up for success. And that then, even after the dog is adopted, you're still providing that adopting family with resources and just the support that they need, the tools, the support that they need if anything were to happen.
If you get in a rescue expecting to not work with people,
yeah.
Also,
I love dogs. I love animals.
Yeah.
I hate people.
Look, we don't like people that much either, to be honest. But you're gonna have to train the person as well. There's a lot of people outside of rescue.
It's always training people.
It is. There's only so much you can do for the dog. A loving family is great, but a structured family is just as important. We specialize in medical cases, but we have taken on behavioral too, which we love. And again, we're a good rescue. Any kind of behavioral case dog, bite history dog we have, goes to a trainer, one of our trainers, before they ever get into a foster home, before they're up for adoption. We follow up with these dogs for the rest of their lives. Even the dogs we've adopted out 2-3 years ago, we continue to check up on every few months.
We want to set the dog up for success. We just need to meet your dog, make sure the dynamic works, and it has to be a perfect fit.
And then there's a 30-day trial run.
There is a 30-day trial run. During those 30 days, the dog still legally belongs to us. And after 30 days, if everything goes great, then the dog is adopted out. We are getting off track right now though. Okay, I'm gonna pull up my list because it's an extensive list. This is the part that sucks, right? Everyone loves to save a dog. Everyone loves to rehabilitate a dog and find its forever home. There's a lot of administrative stuff that goes on with starting a rescue. So first and foremost, pick a rescue name. This might seem like pretty easy. You can always do a DBA, which is doing business as, but picking a name, do a simple Google search. Go on GoDaddy.com and type in the names that you're thinking to see if the URL is taken, if that name is taken. So you have to pick your name, search social media platforms to see if that name is taken, because that's always shitty. If you sign up for, when you're filing for your nonprofit license and you pick a name and then those handles on social media are taken, it's gonna be really frustrating for you. Secure an email address. And you have to pick 3 board of directors. That's including yourself. So myself and 2 other people are on the board of directors for your rescue. You wanna make sure it's people that you can trust, that if God forbid something were to happen to me, the other 2 individuals can handle anything that happens, that you guys see eye to eye on most things, because these are the individuals that are going to take over your rescue if something happens. And then you file for your 501c3 license. You can do that on your own, but I know my strengths and weaknesses, and dealing with paperwork from the IRS and the government stresses me the hell out. So I went through Floyd Green CPA, which is based out of Atlanta, and they specialize in nonprofit licensing. So I sent them over my information. They had a huge questionnaire. They filled everything out for me. So they were the ones that filed for my 501c3. So after doing that, it does take upwards to 6 months to get approval to be a nonprofit. Once you have that, they're gonna set up your bylaws, which is something you do need. And that is to register as well with the general attorney of your state. Again, every state and city is gonna be different, but I do believe that's like the bare minimum. You need your 501c3 license and your bylaws in order to apply with the general attorney of your state. Okay, once you have that,
easy.
Yeah, super simple, right? Once you have that, you wanna get agreements in place. And this is to keep yourself, your fosters, and your adopters accountable, right? And safe. So you want agreements and contracts set in place, meaning if we adopt a dog out, there are, rules and regulations. For example, just something very simple. If you adopt a dog out from us, you are never to alter that dog, meaning you are not to dock its tail, you are not to clip its ears. that's something very simple, right? We don't allow it. If we hear that you have breached a contract, then lawyers get involved. So another point in our contracts, specifically for adopters, is that I don't care if it's 5 years down the road. If for whatever reason you can no longer care for this animal, for whatever reason, you always reach out to us. The animal always comes back to us. I don't care if it's bite history. Our information is always secondary on microchips. So if a dog gets scanned at a shelter, if you dropped off a dog at a shelter, again, you are breaching a contract and legal will get involved. Our dogs are always welcome back in our rescue no matter what happened. It's kind of a safeguard, in a sense, but it also gives us peace of mind that if anything were to ever happen, if this family were to lose their home, if someone gets a job overseas, anything like that where they can't, they just can't do it, they can't figure it out, we're always here, we will always take our dogs.
And unfortunately, the reality is most people try and avoid confrontation, which is also why it's in place. It'd be very easy for someone who seemed great during the 48 hours, we spent with them and the dog, and then 3-4 years down the line, they're embarrassed to come back and they drop off the dog.
Yeah.
Also, why we don't necessarily specialize in puppies, as great as they are, on top of them not pulling at our heartstrings, because we are so vigilant in following up with everyone for the rest of that dog's life.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say how a puppy's behavior may change throughout the course of its life, especially the first 2 years, and how a family is going to handle that. That's such a critical time in a dog's life as they're growing up. If we adopt out an 8-week-old German Shepherd puppy, we follow up, we make sure its shots are done, medical's taken care of, and after that, it's on that individual, on that family to raise the dog correctly, to set boundaries in the house. It's a lot of follow-up and it can go very wrong very quickly.
Foster agreements, adoption contracts, handbooks, so that fosters are set up for success. If it's a foster to adopt situation, they also read our handbook where it's do's and don'ts. And I can share all of this with you guys on a PDF. If you'd like, I'll put our email below and you guys can reach out and I can share it with you guys.
After you get through my 5 steps. Very important.
Yeah. After you get through his 5 steps of actually doing the work, then reach out. So after you have all these agreements in place, then you file for your general attorney. With your general attorney, you have to renew that every year. So after your taxes are done, which was just recent for us, all of our taxes and paperwork are in place, we resubmit that and we refile with the general attorney, letting them know that we are in good standing, that our taxes are done, and this is all public knowledge. Public records. People can go on the general attorney since we started in California, that's where it is. You go to the General Attorney of California, you can look up the Powerful Rescue, and you can see how much we brought in donations in 2020, how the money was spent, because all of our forms are up there. So there's no hiding. So it's really sketchy when a rescue has no paperwork up or they're not current on their paperwork. And that could just be late filing or there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, you can see this as well outside of looking it up there. It's illegal for a rescue on any kind of social media handle to put up 501c3 nonprofit if they're not in good standing. If they're collecting donations while they're not in good standing, they're breaking the law.
Right. Okay, so once you have your 501c3, once you've been deemed that you are a decent human being and can run a nonprofit, you also have to fill out a ton of other forms that your CPA will help you with. It's the 3500A form and the RRF form. Biggest thing, guys, get nonprofit insurance. Find a nonprofit that specializes in rescue, because there are things that you will encounter, things that are out of your control, you will need insurance for.
Yeah, and unfortunately, 99% of the time, as sad and as messed up as it is, if one of your dogs bites somebody, it could be something really as basic as a stranger coming into the home, grabbing the dog by the face while it's sleeping, and that dog bites somebody. It is so easy for people to sue you for a bite. No matter how many safeguards you have in your contract, in the legal system, trying to get a dog out of a bite case is damn near impossible. It's very, very hard.
So you want to make sure that you are protected.
Yeah.
And it's honestly why we have those guidelines and foster agreements in place, just to make people realize how important it is to keep our dogs safe, right? We want to keep humans safe and our foster safe and our adopters safe, but we also need to keep these little guys safe, because once a dog has a bite history, it is exponentially harder to get them adopted. So you want to make sure you get a lawyer, nonprofit insurance. Those two things are crucial when you are dealing with animals.
Yep.
Animals are unpredictable. If you're rescuing from a shelter, you don't know these animals. It is best to cover your ass and your foster's asses. So once you have your 501c3, your bylaws, all that good stuff, you open up your rescue bank account. That means all of the money, all the donations, platforms. So at the same time that you set up your bank account, right after that, you're gonna set up your platforms in which you are raising money. So PayPal, big one, right? Patreon now is a big one. So you wanna have your bank account set up so that you can start transferring money from whatever platform you're using to raise funds into that account. All your transactions are gonna be done on that account. So then your next step is gonna be QuickBooks. You need to have some sort of system to keep track of categorizing your transactions, so that when an accountant comes in, which you will share your QuickBooks with an accountant, they can see all the transactions, they can put it in place and do a spreadsheet of your profit and loss for the fiscal year, and then they do your taxes at the end of the year. So the QuickBooks, it's bank account, platforms to raise money, QuickBooks, invite your CPA to your QuickBooks account. I can do QuickBooks. I screwed it up the first time around, but I can do it now that our accountant has gone through how she wants us to categorize. Now it's super easy. But the first time I did it, I royally messed up. It said that we were like negative thousands of dollars. I was like, oh my God.
Spend the extra money and get the help, guys.
Yeah,
You're going to be so busy with dogs anyway.
Yeah.
Between your job and the dogs and
you don't want to mess up anything with the IRS.
You really don't.
You don't want to do it. The next things are submitting your 501c3 to a few places. Facebook. Facebook is a great platform to raise funds. Whenever someone does a birthday fundraiser for us, it's, I'm gonna say easy because these people are working to raise funds, but it's like $500 here, $500 there.
And it takes a few clicks.
And it just takes, a few minutes a few seconds for someone to donate through Facebook, right? So to get approval through Facebook takes a few weeks. But with Facebook, you have to have your 501c3, your bylaws, and your bank account already set up. That way they can filter money through that bank account. So every 2 weeks, Facebook will cut the rescue a check for whatever fundraisers were done, in your honor. So you want to do that, and then you want to link up with local shelters in your area and submit your pull rights. We don't just pull dogs for any old rescue. If I don't know you personally, if we haven't sat down and had a drink together, if we don't speak on the phone occasionally, I don't feel comfortable pulling a dog and sending it to another rescue. So we have a very small, close-knit group of people that we work with and rescues that we trust, that we know that they run their rescue, they have a really tight ship, they have their contracts, there's no shady stuff happening. And it's just because we don't want later on down the road to find out that this one rescue was doing shady stuff and we're associated with them. So once you have pull rights, which with certain places like LA County, it takes sometimes 4 to 6 months to get approval. And then once you're approved to pull with them, it takes an additional 6 months to pull the hard cases, the dogs that require waivers. So it is a long process through county. Some shelters, within the next day, you have pull rights. So it just depends on the shelter. So I would reach out to all of the shelters that you want to work with and just knock it out, because they all have application process. You have to send them your 501c3 license, your bylaws. Some of them ask you for your adoption contracts, your foster contracts. Some of them have asked me if I have rescue insurance. So you have to have all of that in place before you can start pulling and applying to pull dogs.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Oh yeah.
Amazon Smile, even though it is a small
it's very tiny, it's 0.1%
of funds that get donated back.
On select items.
It's just easy. It's easy money that can go to your rescue. You want to apply for Smile / I think smile.amazon.com. You create an account with Amazon so that anytime anyone orders anything, it goes
You
a
get
percentage of that.
0.1%.
Yeah, a percentage of that goes back to your rescue. So people can change it up. You know, one week they can donate to one rescue or one nonprofit, another week it could be another one. But setting up Amazon, I think, is Amazon Smile is very beneficial. It's just another avenue for you to collect funds. And then the last part, guys, is being as transparent as possible. That's my closing. Being as transparent as possible. Duke and I put everything out there. Sometimes we have to let things kind of happen and digest what happens before we put it out, but we always put it out there because it can be a learning experience for another rescue, especially if it was a learning experience for us. We're not perfect. Everything is a learning experience in rescue as you tackle new cases, as you take on different cases
kind of
or
dogs, different breeds.
Yeah, it's just everything.
Different medical.
Everything is a learning experience. We've never ran a nonprofit, let alone dog rescue. So everything is going to be new to us. That's why I do like to make these kind of master lists of steps. That if I can help anyone, great. If we can help anyone, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we take everything that happens in our rescue, good and bad, as a learning experience, and that's why we share everything with you guys.
Even our foster agreement. The foster agreement is constantly changing.
Yep.
Just on things come up.
Yep, things that come up, things that our fosters have questions about. We're like, oh man, we should really add that one in. So everything is a learning experience. We are not the say all be all. We are also learning as well. So we look up to some of the bigger rescues for advice. I can't tell you how many times we've reached out to other rescues like, hey, have you ever dealt with this? You know, how do you go about this? When I first got into rescue, Ilver from Pick Crew Rescue was one of the first people I ever spoke to, and she's like, let me help you out. These are the documents that I've used. This is how we go about things. And she was super helpful. And I want to help as many people as possible. If there's a ton of rescues out there, great. If there's, even if it's not a rescue, you wanted to start a nonprofit of some sort, these steps can still very much help you. So, the biggest thing, like Duke said, is before starting a rescue, realizing that you're not going to make money doing this. Later on down the road, if you do become this large nonprofit organization, there is a percentage that you can take from the donations to pay yourself a salary. Duke and I will never do that. We love our jobs, our actual 9-to-5 jobs.
Not as much as this.
Right. We love this, but we have our jobs, and that's what makes us money. And we want everything to go back to the dogs. Eventually, we will get to a point where we want to have a little piece of land, sanctuary, where we can have some of these dogs that are, a little harder to adopt out, and they can live out their lives on the sanctuary. As of right now, everything goes back to the dogs. So, volunteer, get your hands dirty, foster for a rescue, see if this is something you really want to do before you go all in.
Yep.
Because filing for your nonprofit license also costs you money. So I believe in California, it was like $750. And then to start your bank account, you have to have at least $1,500 to put in an account to start it. So just because you're starting a nonprofit doesn't mean you don't it doesn't require money to start. You definitely need money to start a nonprofit. So definitely do the dirty work first and see if you love it. And if you love it, green light. Go for it.
And hit us up.
All right.